everybody. My name is William He. I am 19 years old. Can you believe it? I am from the maybe great state of Texas, minus the politics, and I am the founder and CEO of Dream for America. What we're building is the left's counter to Turning Point USA. And also one other message I want to say while I'm up here. Go Spurs. No.
All right. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Congressman Maxwell Frost. I represent Florida's 10th Congressional District in the United States Congress. I am not 19 years old. I'm 29, but it's good to be here.
I'm Maxwell's colleague in Congress, Jamie Raskin from Maryland's beautiful 8th Congressional District.
Woo!
And I am 19 myself.
All right, y'all. Well, let's get started. So I'm a really cool moderator. Anybody can answer any of these questions unless I specifically state otherwise. But there has been a lot of coverage about young voters shifting a little more to the right in recent years. I would love to know if you've found that to be true personally in your work, and if so, how you plan to combat that.
Yeah, I guess I could go first. I think so. I mean, we saw it in 2024. Young voters shifted 30 points to the right. Trump won young men for the first time in decades. And our biggest losses were with young African-American men, young Hispanic men, young Asian-American men. And so I think so. But I think that's also the result of a decades-long gambit by the right to spend billions of dollars to engage with young voters 365 days a year and indoctrinate them. And I think that's one of the biggest things that what we're lacking is the always-on campaign and us fully resourcing young organizations like mine to talk to young people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think part of the thing here, too, is there's a difference between young people went Republican and young people voted for the Republican candidate in that year. I don't think there's a huge shift to the right and to the Republican Party from young people that's going to last a long time, hopefully. But in essence, Donald Trump became the counterculture in this last election. And, young people hate the establishment. They hate the way politics operate right now. And a lot of them do not feel represented by either party. And Donald Trump was speaking the language of outrage, of faux populism, of this isn't meant to work out for you and for young people, and so elect me to office and we'll fix it all for you. Obviously, it was all BS, but it's a real poignant message, especially at a time where it is uniquely difficult to be a young person trying to navigate society, trying to build wealth, trying to get a house. I mean, buying a house, that's not even, it's like a figment. It's like, that's never gonna happen. You can barely afford to rent. And so I think he spoke that language, and that's why the Republican nominee got that much of the youth vote. He didn't win it, but they got pretty close. But I think, to what you said, it's so important. The right wing has been investing in year-round operations for young people for a while, and it's this party-adjacent infrastructure that's so important. You got to give people different options for a political home. Not everyone's going to want to be a college Democrat. We love them. That's okay. But not everyone wants to do that. Some people are going to want to organize with Dream for America or the Sunrise Movement or the Dream Defenders or whatever it is. And part of the problem is the democratic infrastructure has a hard time giving legitimacy and resources to organizations that aren't necessarily fully aligned with the party infrastructure. And that's a problem. We have to be willing, to see if we're generally walking in the same direction, we're on the same team. And it's more than just lip service, but it's about how do we legitimize your operation by making sure our candidates are going to your events and talking to your people, et cetera, and how are we shifting funding to go to your organizations as well.
So the politics abhors a vacuum, and if we're not out there organizing young people on college and high school campuses, the right wing with their propaganda and their disinformation is going to move in and do it. And that's what we've seen. So we need to counter that, supplant it, and defeat it with organizing of progressive movements and organizations all over America. And we need that both for the creation of a new generation of progressive organizers and leaders. That's what our Democracy Summer project is all about. that Maxwell and I do, but we also need it for the transformation of the Democratic Party, because we need that infusion of new ideas and new energy, new idealism, and new blood from all of the young people who are out there. So that's why I came to the conference. I wanted to help to spread the word about our project called Democracy Summer, with high school age, college age, apprentice age kids all over America. We're operating in every state, and I hope everybody gets the chance to check it out, because it's going to be really important this summer. Last summer we had 1,000 young people, and this summer we're hoping for 2,500 or 3,000 young people to join us.
So in terms of doing the hard work of actually organizing and motivating potential young voters, what actual tactics and strategies have you seen be successful in that? I would love it if the people who came out to our panel had some tangible actions that they can take and bring back to their workplaces.
Yeah, I think three things. Number one, if you want to reach young people, you need to have an authentic message of heart and of hope, whatever that might be, right? Whether it is running on corruption, or whether it's on an economic agenda, or whatever it might be. But you have to believe what you're saying, and I think you have to be positive about it. Be a happy warrior. Secondly, the person doing the messaging has to be, I think, a young person. I mean, so often do I see, like, politicians or 60 years old try to talk to people like me, and it just doesn't really land. Or they do like these TikTok dances. Please stop with the TikTok dances, all right? Please. And I think the third biggest thing is just be a normal person. I think people are looking for authenticity in this time. They're looking for a message of hope, and I think they want more young people to do it. So that's my three pieces of advice. Be authentic, be young, and be hopeful. And no more TikTok dances.
I think what you're running on really matters to young people. And I don't think it's just how you deliver the message or who delivers it, but also, like, what is the message? I think a lot about Mayor Mamdani's race, and a lot of people, their takeaway from it was, yeah, we got to do more videos. and I think they're missing the point. The fact of the matter is, young people see a political system that's inherently corrupt. They see loads of corporate money going into it. They see there's no action on housing, gun violence, healthcare, this and that. Then all of our money is sent overseas to kill innocent people, and it's all this stuff going on at the same time. And when that happens to you, or something in your life happens, you go one of two ways. It either drives you more into apathy, or it drives you into action. Having political leaders who actually have solutions that are direct to the point, easy to understand, and could fundamentally change your life, that is the difference. You can make all the videos you want in the world, but if you don't have a message that people remember and a message that cuts through, then you're not going to win. And this is something a debate we're engaged in right now is, like, what's the House Democratic message for the election? And the thing I'm saying is, we got to stick away from, like, these broad value statements that we don't have much credibility on anyway. We're going to lower the cost of living. What does that mean? We're going to fight corruption. Okay, there's corporate money in both parties and all this. But if we have a very specific message about what we're going to do, and it connects to what young people are going through, which is, it's easy. Everything's too expensive and nobody has any money. If we're able to, like, speak to that, and then I think people are more likely, especially young people, to survive with our candidacies and, like, the work that we're doing. The last thing I'll say that I think is really important is figuring out ways that we can mesh both culture and advocacy in politics. That's where the real power is. Mm-hmm. And most social movements that have really made a change in this country are when there's been a blurred line between the culture and politics. And it's a fine line, and it can become very, like, cringy really fast if you don't do it in an authentic way, like what you were saying. So, for me, I don't know much about sports. I'm not a sport guy. I went to art school. It was like High School Musical except black people and Latinos. And so I do a music festival that every year in my district, where 90% of the people who come to it have never been to a political event before, but they're coming to see their favorite artists. And in between the sets, we speak to them about the issues that we care about. And all the booths are local organizations that they can volunteer with. I know I'm spending my own campaign money on this, and I know that I'm losing a ton of potential volunteers to other organizations, but I don't see it as a loss because they're still involved in the political infrastructure of Orlando, Florida, and that's what the event is about. And so I'm not saying a music festival will save us, but imagine if all elected officials across the country use their campaign accounts to engage in year-round organizing where they can engage with their base and use that to go help other candidates down ballot and ballot initiatives and stuff like this. And this is the whole purpose of Democracy Summer, which is the program that Jamie found. I like to call it, it's like a gateway drug into year-round organizing. You know, Jamie and his team create the program, the curriculum, everything like that, and they make it easy for members of Congress to pay young people to be a part of this program for the summer, and I think it's just such a great thing, and we need more politicians to spend their damn money to organize locally all the time, and I think we'd win a lot more if we did that.
Yeah. So let me follow up on Max's point about the Democracy Summer curriculum. So what we do is we invite the young people to come in, and then we have a class that we teach, and Heather Cox Richardson is part of it, Benny Thompson is part of it, Maxwell Frost is part of it, AOC is part of it, and we're teaching about the historical struggle for the right to vote and for democracy and freedom in America. And then it leads up to what is going on today and how can everybody be engaged. So one of our speakers who comes is Mark Elias, who's a great lawyer for the right to vote and for democracy in the country. And Sherilyn Ifill comes and she talks about trying to defend the Constitution and voting rights against the onslaught from the Roberts Court and from MAGA. Now, I think young people need to hear a context for the struggles that are going on today. And so when we started Democracy Summer, John Lewis, may he rest in peace, used to kick us off. Before that, Bob Moses, who founded the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, in the South, used to kick us off. People have got to understand that what we're going through today is linked to the struggles of the past. And that is something that can give people a sense of confidence and a sense of hope that we're going to be able to get through this thing together, and that there are older people who want to help, who want to be part of this process. And just like we're looking to you, you can look to us in order to get through this nightmare and take back democracy and freedom as the real journey of America.
So I'd love to hear from William on this one, but I'm sure our other panelists might have some thoughts here. William, you founded Dream for America. You're the largest pro-democracy youth movement in the country. You also openly bill yourself as a turning point for the left. What do you think are Turning Point's biggest accomplishments in their space, and what sort of strategies or tactics do you think made it successful? How do you think we can actually practically create that on the left?
Yeah. Well, I think their biggest accomplishment is using fear and hatred and intolerance and rallying millions of young people towards the cause of Christian nationalism and crypto-fascism. They have built a movement with billions or hundreds of millions of dollars to do just that. That being said, intangibly, their, I think, biggest accomplishment is really that they can fill rooms, they can create spaces for young people to, as Congressman Frost was saying, right, people coming in, presidential candidates, they want to talk to these young conservatives. They want to get in these rooms and talk to young people because they built these spaces where young voices were mattered. And I think that's the product of the thousands of chapters. They do all these conferences. They have all this entire media operation. And so the lessons I guess we could learn from that, I think, is at least with my organization, right? What we've done is, so I started when I was just 16. I'm 19 now, and since then we've just hit 1 billion views actually on social media. We've got 50 chapters now across 23 states. 600 schools in the pipeline across all 50 states, and we're doing all these events to make sure that young people hear the gospel of democracy, right? I mean, we stand on the shoulders, things are bad now, but we stand on the shoulders of giants of so many other young people, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, who have done the work because they just cared about this country. They were patriots too. They wanted to make this country a better place, right? Civil rights, gay marriage, you name it. And I think the biggest, most important thing out of that is that, I mean, one of my favorite things I get to do is I get to travel around the country and I get to talk to young people, and the thing that I'm hearing is that people are sick and tired of this government and of the corruption they're seeing, and left, right, liberal, or conservative, I think people are waking up to the reality of how corrupt our system of politics is, and that people are hungry for change. And I think one of the biggest things, for example, Trump is down 70 points with young voters, but we're only ahead by 10 in the generic ballot, right? We have to fix that. And I yearn for the day where young people are, voting 95% or 100% for Democrats. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but.
No, solid to me. Any other thoughts?
I mean, just organizing has changed a lot. And I don't purport to have all the answers. I mean, I'll give you a story. During the Kamala Harris campaign, I was pulled into a meeting with a group of campus organizers. I won't say what campus, but, and they were like, can you come in and encourage them because they're feeling really depressed about the election? And honestly, I mean, maybe I was in a bubble. I don't know about you, but October of that year, I thought we were going to win. I mean, and I was traveling and doing rallies, and I felt pretty good about it. And I went into the meeting, and I was like, what's up? What's going on? And they were like, Turning Point USA. They all said together. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, they're hosting the biggest parties, these huge events. The presence on this campus is immense. It's all low bar activities where if you agree with one thing, that might be enough to pull you in and bring you into the system where it's a low bar for that engagement, and then you get into the online engagement and that ecosystem they've built, and you're being thrusted between online stuff and in-person stuff. And all this is going on, and we're at the student union giving out stale pizza and asking people to sign commit to vote cards. And it feels like we're not, it feels like they're operating at a different level than us. And I'm someone who comes from organizing and being a field director. I was like, there's nothing wrong with commit to vote cards. But it's so true. Organizing has changed, and I don't have all the answers for us. I think there's a lot of great people doing work online and figuring out how to activate people online. But the thing we really all have to continue to figure out is how do we build an ecosystem where people can feel like they're part of our movement, whether it's in person or online. And we don't value one thing more than the other because both are so important. But none of that matters if our candidates don't run on policies that young people see themselves represented in. And I think that's really important, and I think we all broadly agree on that. If you're not running on making sure everyone has health care as a human right, housing as a human right, making sure our money isn't, spent killing people in other countries, all this stuff. If you're not running on that, I just think you're gonna have a hard time connecting with young people, and you can have a brand that does that maybe online, but at the end of the day, I think it won't hit in the same way. So just organizing has changed a lot. I think there's just a lot more work we all have to do on the left to figure out ways that we can work together a little bit more and figure out what does organizing look like nowadays, because I do believe it has changed a lot just in the last 10 years.
So my first couple full-time jobs in politics were in the youth organizing space in particular, and this is something that that really stands out to me now that I've been working in politics for about a decade and have seen kind of what the broader electorate looks like compared to young people specifically. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like today there are really specific issues that young people care about significantly more in comparison to the electorate overall? And do you feel like our elected officials and our candidates have an obligation to prioritize those things if they want to win over those voters, and also just if they are being future thinking?
Yes.
Okay, that was easy. Next.
Yeah. But I think, what comes to mind, I think a lot of people in my generation are feeling really apathetic and disillusioned right now. Young people are watching the collapse of our democracy through our phones and through our screens. We saw the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good and even Charlie Kirk live through our phones. right? I mean, there are young boys and young girls who are seeing the denigration of our institutions and our courts and our democracy and our voting rights and are seeing their school shot up and seeing climate change and they can't afford a house and the billionaires are buying up all the land and the list just goes on and on and on. But the through line, I think, all of that is, I think people are really searching for answers. And one thing that the right has done really well is offer, although I think really stupid ones, but offer answers on why that is. Whether it is, all of your problems are trans people or women or immigrants or gay people, which, by the way, happy Pride Month. But ally, But I think young people are searching for answers, and I think, like what Congressman Frost said, it's about what you're running on. And in my conversations, I get to travel across the country, in my conversations with people, I think people are really concerned about, at the end of the day, how can I afford things? My gas, my car, my school, right? And does my government work for me and not the other way around? And I think that so many young people, if we can offer a vision, an affirmative vision about that, I think so many young people are going to come to our side.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're pretty easy, Don't support genocide. Make sure, have an agenda to make sure that people can afford their rent. Housing is a human right. Healthcare is a human right. I think we all know, we all hear what like young people are talking about. And the fact that you brought this up is we see trauma on our phones every day. And in fact, this is part of what I think connects our I think our generation is very similar to baby boomers, actually. And I'm talking about baby boomers when they were our age. A lot of war, a lot of trauma, a lot of organizing due to that. And there's similarities between our generations coming up. We're actually both the most politically active generations in our age brackets, which I find very interesting. And I think a lot of it has to do with war and conditions not being good at home, seeing our money being sent to that, and then asking the question, what's going on? And being angry about it. And that radicalizes people, and it can push them to support someone like Donald Trump when maybe they never considered themselves to be right-wing. I'll tell you, in Florida, we have a candidate running for governor named James Fishback. And I hate that I hate him. Yeah, dude, he's such a loser. But he'll have one video go viral about something we care about, right? Gaza. And a lot of people will follow him and support him, not understanding that he's like a racist and he's like a really bad person. But because our algorithms can be so specific and really lock you into something, you might never see any of his racist shit ever in your life, but you'll see the one thing that maybe you agree with. And that's dangerous. It's really dangerous. And so this is part of the reason why it's important for our candidates to be loud and bold about things that maybe might not be popular in DC. Maybe it's gonna get you uninvited from a few fancy dinners or fundraisers, but like 80% of the people in your district agree with you on it. And I think that, I think that's the answer.
I believe this generation, at least from the young people that I know from my family and from Democracy Summer, this generation is strongly opposed to war, militarism, and the military-industrial complex and what they're doing to our country. And this is a generation that has got to rediscover and redefine what democracy and freedom mean. John Dewey said about democracy, the only solution to the ills of democracy is more democracy. Mm-hmm. And what we're suffering from today are all of the impediments and obstacles to democracy. So we've got to open it up. We need a constitutional amendment guaranteeing the right to vote against all voter suppression tactics in the country. One of the things I agree with Donald Trump about is statehood, and not for Canada, not for Greenland, not for Panama, but for Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. We got millions of disenfranchised people. And the freedom agenda is an agenda right at the heart of this generation's concerns, because we've got tens of millions of young American women who have no right to choose in basically the southern half of the United States. And like Lincoln said, the nation could not survive half slave and half free. I don't think that we're going to be able to survive half pro-choice and half theocrat. We've got to declare the right of everybody to health care in America.
All right, well, we have got precious little time left, but I would love to take these last moments. If there's anything you want to plug, any way that people can get involved with Dream for America, with Democracy Summer, love to hand it over.
Yeah, best way to get involved is sign up on our website to start a chapter, dreamforamerica.org. Or if you're on the older side, the biggest thing for us right now is resources to support our students on the ground, so you can make a tax-deductible contribution at dreamforamerica.org/donate.
I just want to thank you all for being here. I know it's a difficult time, and it's sometimes it's hard to wake up in the morning, especially when you're in the work, but we're all in this together. And like Maya Angelou said, I come as one, I stand as 10,000. We're each other's 10,000, so love you guys, and thank you for being here.
Yeah. Check out Democracy Summer online. You can go to jamieraskin.org for more information. And outside, we've got posters, we got T-shirts, we got all kinds of Democracy Summer stuff. So check it out and spread the word. This is the summer that we need America's young generation to rise up. And there are a lot of us in the middle age and beyond who are with you guys. And we're there to organize with you, galvanize with you, mobilize with you. Hang tough, everybody. Hang tough.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you all for coming.
Well done.